I drank and used for 30 years. I was driven by money, status, titles, and I figured those things would fill that hole, but it never did. But God was working on my heart, softening my heart, and it didn't take the first few times. It took me like 3 or 4 years.
How many people have you seen get baptized?
We lost a guy just the other day to a relapse and an overdose. I saw him get baptized, and I know he gave his life to Christ. So, I know where he is.
Welcome back to the Plugged In Podcast. I'm your host, Wade Mulhauser. I'm super excited today. I have a good friend, my mentor, someone who helped me get started, someone who helped me when I was down, has seen me literally at my worst and at my best. So it's been super cool that he's been a part of that ride. He is a good friend, a confidant, has been a sponsor of mine in the past as well. Without further ado, Paul Garcia.
You forgot Golf Buddy.
And Golf Buddy, my Wednesday or Thursday morning partner.
That's right. People like us, we get to play golf on Wednesday, Thursday mornings.
Yeah.
Right? That's good. Well, yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for having me here. I'm pretty excited to be here. See the new IOP. I'm really impressed, man. It looks really great. I've been to a lot of IOPs, and a lot of them have a weird feel to them, a little dark, but this is bright, man. This has a good feel to it and good vibe. It doesn't hurt that I know like half the people here. That's pretty cool.
We, come from kind of the same cloth as far as a program that was around for a long time, which is actually how I got introduced to you. But we took a lot of those same people, and it's really cool to see what it's transformed to, getting to see the root of that, and then, turning it into the program that it is today. I just actually found out from the lady, she just went dark and then put the building up for sale.
Up for sale?
Yeah.
Wow. Just to see what she got.
Yeah.
Bet you it's way over value.
It is not today's market value for that area.
That's not surprising.
No. So I'm like, well, she'll probably sit on it for a while, and maybe we can still scoop it up.
Well, the cool thing about what you were talking about, that program that we both went through, is there were some really great things about just the base of what that program was, and what I saw it do, not only myself, for you, but man, a lot of people we know and a lot of people that came before me. And it's great that you're able to take, that good part, because nothing's all good,
right?
And the good parts of that and carry that forward.
It's been a wild ride, and I always say I just got super lucky that a lot of the right people were in my life at the right time, and I know I had nothing to do with that. That's all, God. As far as getting the opportunity to sit down and talk with you, one of the things that I always mention to people is having that person that you look up to spiritually, that obviously still has clay feet, but you can look up to for that advice. I want to let people know, how did you get started on your journey? How did, just telling everybody a little bit about Paul Garcia, how you got into the industry, how you started sober living, what did your struggle look like? And I think the coolest part, which I really look up to, is not only that I got to know you when you had a little bit of time sober, but I've got to see your spiritual walk in that period of time, and just how you've changed as a human. You were someone that I full-heartedly feared for the longest time.
Yeah, that's the one thing that a lot of guys have told me that knew me back before I started this walk of my faith, right? And there'd be times where, I'd come into a house, I'd be coming in hot, man. And, the thought of, something getting physical wasn't beyond the realm of thought, and I didn't want to live that way, but, that's what my heart changed, I'm still big on the accountability, responsibility, and just truth, right? Straightforward truth. And if I have to be a little bit louder, giving it to somebody, then I will be. But it comes from a place of love today, and a place of really wanting somebody to see the truth, as opposed to just wanting somebody to do what I want them to do. That's the difference.
How have you made, I know you said, your heart and that part changing, but how did you go about kind of starting that walk? Was it something you noticed of being like, I don't like being this guy and I want to change that? Or
it's funny you ask that question. I was perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I look back at it, I was perfectly fine. but God was working on my heart, softening my heart. And it got to the point, I think I was in my third year, somewhere between 3 and 4. And, Anna, my wife, and I were talking. And it was time for us to really start setting a moral compass for the kids.
Okay.
And I guess I used that as my excuse, right? We got to get the kids into church. And it just so happens that, I walk into this church where I had attended meetings back when I was trying to get sober. It wasn't, so it was close to the house. It was one of those meetings, tumbleweeds on Wednesday night, and it was at DSC, the church that I go to today. And it was that meeting that, early on in my attempts to get sober, I would show up 5 minutes after the meeting started, and I would leave 5 minutes before it ended. But the church, there's something about that church that interested me. It was different, right? Because I grew up Catholic, and this church was different. So when it was time to go back and explore a church, I ended up going there. And then, you talk about God putting the right people in front of you. That's what happened. I started this walk, and I think the second week I was there, they were talking about a mission trip to Haiti. And I don't know why. Wait, I really don't. But I was compelled to volunteer to go on that thing. And this is, 2 weeks into my walk in Christianity. And through that, I met one of my pastors, who Pastor Jim, and, started getting involved in the Hope group where I started learning scripture. And man, it really took off fast. It really took off fast. And I realized somewhere through there that is exactly where I was supposed to be. And the timing was perfect. And it is one of the best, it is probably the best thing that happened to me. And it happened right at the right time because I was getting, what they call restless irritable. And they talk about, expanding our spiritual life in the big book. And I never really paid much attention to that because I figured if I went to enough meetings, sponsored enough guys, had these sober living, that was enough, right? But you talk about, there was still anger, there was still, me wanting people to do as I wanted them to do, and that's exactly what I needed.
I think that's so cool, and I see it. I know, you probably noticed that so many other people even saw the change in you before you had seen it. And I think one of the coolest things now is I get to watch you. I get to watch how, your family interacts with you, how you interact with your family. I love to see, how many people have gotten not only sober through your houses. I know so many people that not only work for us now that I had met, but like how many people have you seen get baptized because of your decision, right?
Yeah, that's the cool thing, because it's not like I say, hey, you have to go to church or you have to get baptized. The just presenting these guys with that, option, or letting them know this is available to you, and just walking my walk and seeing a couple other guys walk their walk, they decide, hey, maybe there's something to this. And then I don't know how many guys I've seen get baptized, that have come through the houses, and even guys that had already been through the houses come back, go to church and be a part of Hope. And that's it's amazing. And one thing that I will tell you, we lost a guy just the other day to a relapse and an overdose, but I saw him get baptized, and I know he gave his life to Christ. So I know where he is. And that, even though it's a horrible situation and the family is suffering, they, his father called me and expressed gratitude for that, and it really has nothing to do with me. I was glad that I was able to be a part of that and get to see that. And, but those are the miracles, man. I don't know, I'm grateful that I get to be a part of.
And I think it's one of those things, they teach us in the program, attraction rather than promotion, because you're right. I've stayed in your houses. It was never something that was forced upon you, was, felt like you had to do, but it was something that was always led by attraction and just the pure leadership quality of you showing up and putting yourself in that position so other people wanted to follow. So, going forward in where you are today, but then, starting kind of at the base level, before getting into sober living or treatment or anything like that, tell us all a little bit about Paul, right? How did you start your journey? And then where did you get the idea for sober living and all of those things?
Yeah. Well, I drank and used for 30 years. I was driven by, the things that this world tells us are important. I was driven by money, status, titles, all of those things. And I figured those things would fill that hole that a lot of us always feel, right? But it never did. And the alcohol and drugs, I used that to try to offset the rest, right? But it never worked, and it got to a breaking point. I remember when there'd been a lot of things going on. The progression of the disease is real. Functional alcoholism isn't a real thing. It's not. People say functional alcohol. Well, yeah, I kept a job and I made some money. I had some titles for a while, but that's not functional, man. I was wreaking havoc on everybody. And I'm so delusional, I don't even notice it. I don't even see it, nor do I care,
Right.
because I'm narcissistic and selfish, and then I really don't care. But it gets to a point, then there starts becoming, the problems, right? Start the encounters with the police, making really bad decisions that put me in a spot to catch some felony charges and convictions, man. Did some jail time. You would think that would get a person's, attention, consequences, but it didn't. It just gave me more entitlement to do what I thought I needed to do because, hey, man, if the world was against you the way that it is against me, you'd be doing the same exact thing. And that's the thought process. I don't know if you ever had that thought process.
100%.
But yeah, it's that victim mentality, right? And it just had to get really dark and really bad in order for me to make some changes. And it didn't take the first few times. It took me like 3 to 4 years after I first, decided to get sober. I don't know if I really want. I just wanted the consequences to stop, right?
Yes.
From the first time I entered my first detox to when I actually got sober at the place that we were talking about, about a 3 or 4 year span, and I couldn't stay sober to save my life. It was a life or death situation. It just kept getting worse and worse, and consequences started getting worse and worse, and it finally got to a breaking point, and God again puts the right people in front of us, right place, right time, right people, and I was able to break through the pride and ego a little bit, just enough to be willing to really do the work in the book. That pride and ego will kill you, and through working through the steps, I found some humility, and I remember when I went to this place up in Wickenburg, one of my stops, right?
Yeah.
And I did their 35-day deal, and they're telling me, well, you need to go to this sober living place out in California. We highly recommend it. And, I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like, yeah, of course you recommend it. You're getting a kickback on this situation. I see how this works.
Yeah.
And so that's my first exposure to sober living, right? Is people trying to tell me, and I'm kind of defiant in the first place. So I'm like, I'm not going. I didn't. But then when I was at that final treatment center, I was actually allowed to come back home because as opposed to, the 5-day detox I negotiated, I ended up doing 30. Because I did 30, I was allowed to come back home. Friends that I made went to sober living, and they would tell me about it. And they would tell me, so-and-so was using in the back shed and all kinds of crazy things going on. And we just so happened to have this house, and the people that were renting it moved out. And, I didn't know anybody. I'm like, why don't we just, do sober living in this house and give people a clean, good place to actually work on their recovery. And I wasn't looking to do anything more than just cover the mortgage on the house and be involved and see people get sober, man. And it started out that simply.
How did you build the program, right? I mean, Plugged In Recovery, it's no joke. And I take it very serious, but I take it serious because I had the mentorship and leadership of you and your program, and you built that. You were literally a pioneer of how the program is ran. And I mean, it's no secret that we pretty much ripped off almost identical to what you run. How did you come up with that?
What my sponsor was having me do is some of what the Knights do, right? So I took the things that really worked for me, because I knew, and my wife will tell you, I was a difficult case, man.
Okay.
You know, people look at me today and they can't see it, but, you know, believe me, my wife to this day still, you know, considers it a miracle that I'm sober. She thought it would never happen. And she's right. God had to be involved. But it was putting those things together that I knew, even though I didn't want to do a lot of those are the things that worked, you know, and I saw it in other people. And, you know, I talked to one other group that was doing sober living, what I liked from that program, and I discarded the rest.
Okay.
You know, and I always thought of it like, you know, going to let these guys be men as long as they allow me to do that, you know? And I thought from the start, it's like, you know, we have to learn how to grow up, you know? And in order to do that, you know, we have to have that pride and ego broken down, you know, and have some humility. And I'm not talking about, you know, somebody coming in and yelling and screaming at you, but just following what we have laid out. And nothing is so small that it's unimportant, like signing off the chore. That was always the big one, right?
Yes.
Oh, I did it. I did the chore. I'm like, well, you didn't do it because you didn't sign up.
Yes.
And I'm like, I still have that today. I'm like, don't talk to me about this anymore.
Yeah.
It's a very simple thing. It's not done until it's done 100% and it's complete, you know, because that's how we did it before. We shortcutted stuff. We always left things out, but we could justify that we did it, you know, and I just wanted to take all that crap out of it, man, and really, you know, give us a ground level, you know, breaking through of all that immaturity and learning how to grow up, you know.
What were the biggest challenges kind of in the beginning, or what did you see that you made, you know, changes to early on from like maybe the first group of guys or the second group of guys, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, there's big things that we tried. We tried allowing girlfriends over at the houses, and that didn't work out very well because you know, you give us alcoholics and you know, addicts a little bit of rope, man. You know, give an inch, you know, take a mile.
Yes.
You know, they've got all kinds of stories. You know, some of them.
Yes.
Guy walking down the street in the nice neighborhood in Chandler with a mattress. It's just stupid things because you know, you give them some latitude and they take advantage of it. So that was one. You know, the not compromising on meetings and sponsorship and involvement in the program, you know, that became obvious to me very early on that had to be, because there's some guys that'll come in and they're not a problem, you know, but they also don't want to go to a meeting.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, early on, you know, I thought, well, is it really hurting? But then, you know, you don't see the progression. You know, you don't, because it's not. I always tell everybody, it's not a permanent solution. You know, it's there for a reason.
Right.
You know, and if you're not getting out of it what you're supposed to be getting out of it, who am I really helping? You know,
what as far as, you know, going from like your first house to your second house to your third house, and just, I think that natural progression, and you were doing it before there was a lot of the different state stuff, all the things that you have to do today. So like being able to kind of pioneer a lot of that, but, you know, like you said, not compromising on the little things. And that's one thing that I certainly appreciated is, you know, you never made someone feel like the little things couldn't be the difference maker in them getting sober. And you've seen, I mean, how many countless guys who you probably thought, this guy's going to make it. He's not going to be an issue at all. And he's the one who gives you the most problems.
Absolutely.
And then the people who you're just like, this guy has no chance. and he comes around. I mean, maybe even talk about some of those stories of just like that progression.
Yeah. I mean, we've had a lot of that. I mean, we've had guys that, you know, man, you know, go to work at I'll just use Thai Chili Go, who opened up down the street. And I really thought for a while that might be his highest level.
Yeah.
You know, and now I look at the guy and he's got these director titles and doing some really big things, you know? So I don't know, you know, So what I do know is that if we stick to what we do, that everybody's got a shot to do whatever. Anything's possible. I've seen that over this last 11 years, and there's a number of guys that we both know, that have gone on to do great things where, you would look at them when they first came in and it's like, that's not possible. There's no way that guy can handle it. And at the moment it was true, but tremendous growth and taking guys and making them assistant managers and managers. And I think helps that growth with a lot of these guys.
Yes.
That added responsibility and giving them something to shoot for and to grow into. I think that's important.
And we've got to do some cool things with starting like the meeting hall, which can be a real pain in our side at times, right? Which you see a little bit of progression of. But what is it that you really want to do? What is it that you see next on the horizon for yourself and kind of just the impact that you've made? I know you've helped so many people already, but where's Paul? Where's Paul going? Where's Paul wanting?
That's a good question. I think God has me doing exactly what he wants me to do right now. My level of involvement with these guys is sometimes it can be a little much. Okay. Because as I'm involved with them on day to day.
Yes.
And I know each and every guy in my house and where they work and all of that. And it can feel a little much. And some people in my life tell me that I need to step away from that a little bit and hand that off. But I just don't know if I'm ready to do that yet. I can tell you that I'm waiting for a word from God. But I don't know what that looks like. I know that we've talked about, bigger treatments, and that's something that interests me because, I think that, with what you have going on with both of our backgrounds, there can be some really great things that can happen out of that. So I'm open to that, but whatever it looks like, I'm hands on.
Yeah.
I'm hands on. I'm not a big guy of, going out to speak to groups of people. I'm not the big guy to go to events and shake hands with a bunch of people who own this or own that. That's just not what I do. I'm more of a one-on-one personal relationship type of guy.
And I think that, is one thing that I really admire to you is that, you are so hands-on. You are, the guy that people can call and even that father figure where people don't want to disappoint you. And people also want to celebrate their wins with you. They want you to be the first guy that they call. I know Eric is one of them, right? I mean, he'll call you before he calls probably his own parents sometimes, just because you have that type of investment in people. What keeps you grounded in that, where you don't get sick and tired of it? You don't get, too overwhelmed by it. I know one thing for me that I've seen is, and I've learned from you in this respect, but you can get so invested in someone that their letdown becomes your letdown.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, it is true. I mean, we've had a rough week. We were talking earlier, we lost a guy who, didn't die of an overdose, but he was working on the side of the road. And that's tough because you see a guy, working through the struggle, man, and doing the deal, doing everything I've asked of him, waking up at 3 a.m, going to work, and then on top of that, doing everything we ask of him. It's tough, but man, I walk into this place, I see what you've done, Eric to an extent, all the other guys, and there's so many that God allows me to see these things where, I feel I'm filled with gratitude. I'm feel blessed. Because I don't think anybody else gets to see the things that I get to see,
That's super cool. That's super cool. I know that, obviously I have been in your house multiple times. I have failed so many times in your house. I'll never forget having to make the phone call after getting off the phone with Ray and telling him I relapsed at like 10 or 11 months and just knowing how I was going to let you down and how I didn't want to be that person anymore, but I just was so defeated that I thought there's no way I'm ever going to get this thing. Like if there was one shot I had, it was that shot and I missed it, you know, and then shortly thereafter, I go back off the deep end, and, you know, you kind of helped me through that. So you are right, though, being able to see the miracles on the other side. What's one thing that you wish guys knew with all of your experience about sober living, you know, getting into it, or what's a recommendation you could give to people who might be thinking about going to sober living?
Well, I think if you go to the right sober living, I think it's a great situation, you know, but, you know, there's a responsibility on their part to be a part of. You know, you can go to sober living and try to isolate, and you're not going to get anything out of it. You know, it's just a place to sleep.
Yeah.
You know, and I try to tell guys that are coming in, you know, because, you know, I still talk to each and every one of them before they come in. It's not just a place to crash. It's not, man. It's a place to get to work, you know. People starting sober livings, you know, I'm always a little apprehensive because, you know, we've seen, you know, people, you know, open up and do things for the wrong reasons, you know, just chasing money, you know, and there's nothing wrong with the money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's wrong is sacrificing what sober living's for you know, quick buck.
Yeah.
You know? And that's the thing. And that's why, you know, I don't talk to a lot of people in the industry. I just never have. I know what I do, you know what I do,
Yep.
and I know what you're doing. And that's enough. You know what I mean? It's enough. There is a friend of mine who opened up a place, but he asked for my guidance all the way through because he wanted to run it the same exact way. So I will help that person do that if I know that their heart is in it. If their heart is really about, you know, having guys, you know, have a shot and get sober, but give them the right. We don't get anybody sober, but we can give them the environment to work on their sobriety, and we can surround them with the right people that are trying to do the same thing.
I love that. As far as your walk and seeing other people kind of go through that exact walk, what recommendations do you have for people who, you know, have gone into a program, have, you know, said, I've tried sober livings before. I know one of the things that I truly believe it was God working in my life, even though it didn't take right away, it was the seeds that needed to be planted, is I had tried numerous sober livings and I had never gotten to a place like yours. I'd been to sober livings where it was a crash pad, or, you know, the owner would check in once every other week to make sure rent was paid and the house was, you know, still operable, but they weren't invested in it. What do you have for like that person who maybe just hasn't found the right sober living that, you know, is like yours, where you're actively involved, you genuinely care about these people succeeding, you know? And I think that, you know, you, out of all people I can speak for, give people every shot possible to be successful.
Well, I do give people multiple shots, but it comes down to the fact that, you know, God's given me the ability and given me the gift of discernment. If somebody has a really good heart and they're not looking to harm, you know, I've given people four chances, you know, and I'll do that because, you know, it's the right thing to do. You know what I mean? But I've also had people on the opposite side of that where I just feel it, you know, and it's just not going to, that one shot was maybe even too much. You know what I mean? And I won't let them back in. If they can get sober somewhere else, I'll root for them all day long. But I just don't feel it's right for us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
Well, I love it.
Yeah.
Any parting thoughts of wisdom? Anything that you want to leave people with?
No, you know, I don't know. Sober living is, you know, for me, it's more than a job. It's more than you know, just a bunch of houses. It's personal relationships. It's accountability, responsibility. And I'm just, you know, I look back at, you know, when I got sober over 11 years ago to where I'm at today and what my life looks like. And it's really amazing, man, because, you know, you ask me, you know, how are you going to put this all together? And I tell you, I have no idea how to do that, you know, but it was God, just one thing at a time, you know. And that's the thing, man, is sometimes we get in such a rush to reach something that we think's important, you know, that we take God out of the equation. It's all our will, you know. With this thing, these sober livings, these relationships, I can say that I've been very patient through the whole thing. Never a rush. Oh man, I got to add another house. oh, I need to. It was never that situation. It's a fortunate thing that I have Anna, my wife, because sometimes she's the one that would have to push me because, I didn't think that I was ready, but she saw that I was. Um, it's just that, it's, if anything, be patient, do the next right thing, find some people that have done it before you that really, really walk the walk, man. And we can all tell.
Mm-hmm.
If we spend any amount of legitimate time with somebody, we can tell.
Yeah.
And those are the people we really have to surround. There's a lot of people that sound really good and say they really care. That's all fine and good, but find the ones that really do. Surround yourself with.
And that's great because, I mean, you've been someone who always picks up the phone, which is something that I admire, and, is why I pick up the phone, is because somebody did it for me. Plugged in Recovery would not be a company if I didn't find you, if you weren't in my life, if you didn't give me multiple opportunities, if you didn't, take me down to some little church shack in, I don't even know, past Tucson. I don't even know the town where we went.
What is that? I'm heading down there again. I was going to ask if you want to go. I remember that trip. I was thinking about that just yesterday. Yeah,
it was wild. For those of you at home who don't know the story, but I go on this trip. Paul invites me down there. I get what I thought was a spiritual experience, a closeness to God.
Yeah.
But it just so happens that I have a friend who's in sober living who had just got me this job who, says, hey, do you want to go to the strip club tonight? And I'll give you $100 just to come with me. And all of this spiritual journey that I just had went right out the window for, that short period of time. And it's so crazy how this disease works, because it was like I was so dead set on doing the right thing. And I go on this trip and, sure enough, I end up in a relapse, and Paul coming through a bathroom door to find me, to find me.
But it's all those little things though in our lives, right? Because like I said, it took me 3 to 4 years to get sober. It was a chronic relapse. I could stay sober to save my life. But everywhere that I went along the way, there was just little seeds of this program and the things that I really needed to do. And if we get around the right people, those will grow, and God gets involved and things happen.
And that's what it was. It was you never giving up on me. It was even after that of like me letting you down after, just the goodness of your heart to invite me on that trip. And then the same day I screw up, but for you to say, go to detox, call me when you get out, and I'll let you come back. And you never giving up on me is what's giving me everything today. So thank you.
Oh, well, I appreciate it. It's everything that I'm able to pass along has been given to me by God. It took me a long time to realize that, but and my Savior Jesus Christ, it's that's the most important thing. And because of that, I get to see these things. I get to come and check out your building. I get to go to your residential and sponsor guys.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And countless other things that, when I even want to start questioning my faith, I look around and I say, there's way too much proof. There's way too much proof to the contrary. There's way too many things that I've seen that, I can't even entertain it,
Well, I love it, man. I love you. And thank you so much for being here today.
And great job.
I appreciate you.
I love this place.
Awesome.